got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yoga. Yeah. The screen's not. Okay. Sometimes you can see me better on the screen, than right here too. So, anyhow, welcome everyone. Anyhow, if you have a chair nearby, we're going to try to do some of those balances where you'll be looking away. If you have any balance issues, have a chair nearby, go to the wall, go to the ballet bar or something for just that moment. But I'll have the chair here just in case. And we can think about having blocks either at the front or the back. I have started the class usually with the blocks in the front because I just go to the top and usually do the first really deep fold. But if you find that having the blocks in your hands helps you to do any of the folds, any of the lunges back when we come back, you can always use those blocks. Okay. And are we good to go? Or?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome to Gentle Yoga at Noon. I'm Jeani, your guide for the next hour. We are continuing with our joint openers of all those major joint groups in the body. It's probably good to have a chair nearby, or when we're doing our standing poses, we're going to be looking away off your center. So if you find yourself being a little dizzy sometimes, it's good to have the chair, a wall, something to help you just in case you lose your balance. But that being said, we'll go ahead and start at the back of the mat. And as we usually do, just arrive without any change to the breath. Just give yourself the time to arrive. Let's see. Oh, for some reason that's not on. Okay, let's try that one more time. But as you're standing back there in your home base of mountain, we're going to just focus on, there we go, letting yourself just come to arrive. Feeling the mat underneath the feet, noticing just how you're feeling, top to bottom. Feet are about hips distance apart. And let me see if I've got the volume up here. Here we go. And your mountain doesn't have to be very tall. When you start, if it helps to have a gentle bend to the knees or a good bend to the knees, go ahead and do so. And every time you return to our home base of mountain, you can find yourself lengthening through the legs, the back. And as we begin to arrive, let's go ahead and cultivate the breath. Left palm on the chest, right palm under the belly button. Just breathe. Give yourself a little more focused breathing. Notice how the air enters the nose. Maybe the hand on the chest lifts at the top of the inhale, maybe even the collarbones. A brief pause before you start your exhale with a little more control through the nose. And at the bottom of the exhale, engage the abdomen. Bring the belly button in towards the spine. You can even press in that belly hand. After you're fully exhaled, that brief pause before the next breath cycle starts. And as you begin to notice how the breath is traveling through the body, the heart rate begins to slow, and the breath cycles become longer. We'll finish cultivating our yogic breath by bringing the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat. On both the inhales and the exhales. And with that, we'll go ahead and bring our hands to relax at the side. And notice that you can connect to that breath at any point. So with the next movement, we're just going to start to bring the body and breath together. Start to slowly feel that change in center at the feet. We're going to go towards the toes, roll a little bit back towards the heels, and then with the next few breath cycles, give yourself a very focused travel up to the toes. Feel that center right at the edge, at the top of the breath, and then you can slowly use the next breath, your exhale, to go towards the heels, to that tipping point. And just use a couple of breath cycles to find that heel to toe alignment. And then we'll return to center, somewhere at the top of the ankles. You can gently lengthen through the legs, feel a little more of the soles of the feet touching the mat. Inhaling, reset the mountain if you need, but feel a lifting all the way up the body through to the crown of the head, maybe even beyond. And as you're uplifted, we're just going to exhale, slowly roll your weight towards the outer right edge. If your feet are a little narrower than usual, you can widen them if you don't feel much of that roll. Then we're going to use an inhale to come back to center or go all the way over to the other side. Use a 2-part breath, inhale to one side, exhale to the other. Or use a 3-part breath, inhale to the center, exhale to either side, whichever works for you. And we're really trying not to bend our knees, but we're really lengthening through the body as we shift like a big stick from side to side. And then we return to center once more. At the top of the ankles, nearer to the heels, feel yourself dip into your mountain and lengthen upwards to reset. Inhaling, feeling upwards energy through the crown of the head. We're just going to simply make small circles. Imagine them at the ankles. And the feet, the soles of the feet are still on the floor. You're just feeling that circular motion radiating outwards towards the edge of your feet. And by the edge, I mean, you can hopefully feel everything around the toes, the outer and inner arches, the heels. And then when that's done, as far to the edge as you can, start to tighten in those circles. Try not to bend the knees. We're just coming in at the ankles, back to center. Dipping back into our mountain. And you can always roll on the feet, lift any gripping motion. You can release that by just rolling. Resetting the mountain, we'll come back in, maybe a little longer, a little less of a bend to the knees if needed. Gently engage the glutes so you can tuck under the tailbone. And then we're going to inhale tall once more and make that same route at the ankles, but this time in the opposite direction. You might notice a change, see how the body reacts. If it's a little choppier, a little more square than orbital, just notice that. And as you're trying to get that lubrication at the ankles and feel the center of the feet at the same time, and then returning to center once the edge has been explored in this direction. And setting back in to our mountain, we're coming on up to the body, and this next step is just about maybe widening the feet a little bit, but you may pivot out the toes at some point as well. We're just shifting the weight from side to side. And as we start to move more of the upper body, imagine the movement starting at the bottom, traveling upwards. And as more of your torso starts facing that side, you might be lifting those toes even more, pivoting gently on the heels. You can gently bend the knee if you need, but try not to torque it out, and that's why you want to lift your toes. And at some point, you might even have a gentle ringing action at the waist by having the motion at the shoulders, just maybe a second or two after the hips. And in that way, you'll get a gentle ringing. And then we'll let that energy peter out, diminish, so we can return to center. Bring in the heel to toe alignment once more. Feet under the hips. Resetting our mountain, you can give yourself a gentle bounce at the knees. See if you can hinge at the hips, sticking the tailbone out a little bit, and just give yourself a little bounce. Then inhale, lengthen through the legs, tuck under the tailbone, engage the glutes, and see if you can get a little longer. Feel as if you've got that energy lifting from the feet all the way up to the chest. And now we're going to focus on our shoulders. So with the next inhale, we can just imagine lifting the shoulders straight up. Exhale, roll them back and down. See if you can even tuck the points of the shoulder blades into the mid-back. We're doing a total of 4 breath cycles worth of lifting up on the inhale, exhaling to roll them back and down. See if you can surrender, just feel really relaxed at the bottom of the exhale, engaging the core. And as you move through these 4 breath cycles, you're just seeing if you can find the space, the movement in the shoulders, while the rest of the body is supporting you. Now we're moving on to another set, but this time after we inhale them up, we're going to roll them forward and down, still tucking in the points to the mid-back. Imagine inhale, up, lifting the shoulders, exhaling, letting them just melt down the back. Arms are nice and relaxed at the bottom of the exhale. And sometimes you can even get the rib cage to expand sideways, if you can imagine, on those inhales. Okay, now we're going to move on up to the neck, giving yourself another reset of your mountain if you need. Feeling as if you've got all points of the soles of the feet touching the mat and longer legs as you reach the top of the body. So here we're going to inhale, gently feel that energy lifting all the way up the body. Imagine that string at the crown of the head lifting. So all you have to do is exhale, let the right ear drop gently towards the right shoulder. There's a good tennis ball space between the shoulder and the earlobe. And your left and right shoulders are still in line. If it started to lift as you turn, then go ahead and bring that back in line. And typically after your first leaning over, you can exhale to turn the gaze if you haven't already. We're using a total of 4 breath cycles here as well. Palms facing forward, just so that you can find release on the left side of the neck. Maybe even all the way into the jawline and somewhat into the face, into the eyes. Allow the eyes to rest to the rightmost of your vision by that last exhale. And then when you're done, you can inhale the eyes, the gaze turns, the head, crown of the head lifts all the way back up at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is exhale to the left side. Inhale for length, exhale to turn the gaze. Body is one good solid column of support. Shoulders in line with one another, hips in line with one another, ankles, and the weight at the feet in balance. And hopefully by that 4th exhale, you have the eyes, soft gaze. Maybe it's just looking somewhere in front of your left shoulder, maybe at your left shoulder, maybe behind the left shoulder. And after that last exhale, we'll inhale the eyes, the gaze, the top of the head completely back up. So all you have to do is exhale, let the eyes float downward, guiding the gaze to the top of the mat. You have length to the back of the neck and a good orange size, tennis ball size space to the chin. We're not resting the chin on the chest. And as you inhale, still feel that uplifted feeling. Your crown of the head might have a slight tilt towards the ceiling, but that's about it. You're still feeling that uplifted feeling with the inhale. You can even gently press into the feet if that helps you from rolling outward at the feet. And you're still exhaling, letting those shoulders just relax. And hopefully you'll feel a little release somewhere here at the base of the neck, at the base of the skull even. And after your last exhale, we can inhale the gaze back towards the midline, past the midline, and as you're looking towards the ceiling, somewhat above you, you can stop craning the neck. See if your shoulders are rolling back and down. We're not having them roll forward. Just nice openness at the chest all the way down to the feet. And as you're looking up, maybe finding some softness in the brow, in the tongue. You can use these 4 breath cycles to find release in the mouth, small O to a large O, maybe just the bottom jaw, gently moving from side to side. Whichever speaks to you, you can do that within the 4 breath cycles. And after your last exhale, all we're going to do is allow the eyes to float back toward your midline, somewhere out in the distance. As you come back here, go ahead and shake out the hands. You can lift your feet. Do what feels good to release any still active muscles from that last pose. Sometimes we're just holding on to postures we don't need to. Alrighty, so coming on back to our mountain, go ahead and reset as it feels good. Maybe it's a little longer, a little taller. You're feeling length now, all points of the soles of the feet down at the floor. And as that internal rotation occurs, you can feel a little more stable from the hips all the way down to the heels. We're going to start our walking meditation by initiating our folds. Feel the hands energizing downward. You're really reaching downward. And as we inhale, we're going to extend these reaching arms all the way above. If you have to be at a tangent, that's fine, but we're looking towards a straight up and down eventually. You can even lift up at the top of the inhale. And then exhale, engage the core, start to firm up the legs, the feet are planted, and you're sticking the tailbone back slightly so you can fold at the hips. Start to come on down, long back. And it might help to walk the hands down if you need, but all we're now doing is keeping that support from the hips down to the heels while the back starts to unfold. And it's our first fold. It's usually about 5 breath cycles, so give yourself the time to and the space for your back to open up. If you need more support, you'll find more of a bend to the knees, more of your tailbone down towards the floor, and maybe your forearms are supporting your thighs. If you're lengthening through the legs and you're just enjoying a nice release at the lower back, your hands might be here. They might be dangling in the air. They might be down on the floor. You might have palms to the floor. It just depends on how flexible you are in your fold. But either way, what we're doing is for those 5 breath cycles, we are just seeing if we can release from the tailbone, down the spine, even the neck, holding on to that 10, 15 pound head might just release slightly by gently moving the head from left to right, nodding the head forward and back gently, and then just see if you can release even more. Maybe the arms are just going to be like wet noodles, helping to lengthen through the back. And your hips all the way down to your heels, just a solid column of support. Engaging those muscles, the internal as well as outer muscles, to keep these legs nice and stable. Feel the balls of the feet all the way through the arches to the heels. And again, your center is somewhere here at the top of the ankles, near to the heels. Now, as we come out of our first lengthy fold, our ragdoll fold, we want to be very mindful of moving slowly on the inhale and with an engaged core. That includes pressing into the feet, firming up the legs, and bend the knees if you need, but feel that center so that as you start to unfurl the spine, 1 vertebra at a time, you might need to walk up the hands, but try to engage the glutes. Lengthen through the legs. Find that pressing down of the legs as you bring the spine back up into a vertical motion, vertical position, and the head stacking last. Give yourself a moment to allow the blood to rush back to the head, and we'll start a second fold. Reaching downward, inhale, arms up. Engage the core, stick the tailbone back, hinge at the hips, and fold. Float on down, or just walk the hands down. Come on down for another 3 breath cycles this time in your fold. You might gently bend one knee, then lengthen that knee, lengthen that leg, and then alternate with the other leg. See if you can do a little bit of movement that finds a little more space in your fold this time around. Maybe it's just shifting the hips in a horizontal plane from side to side, just gently. Maybe it's playing with the center at the feet and reestablishing that. Whatever it is, let go for a second time in our second fold, and then we'll come out once more with a strong, engaged core and an inhale with a straight back or with the curl up. But either way, pressing into the feet, engaging the core, tucking under the tailbone, and coming all the way back up. And hands might be up or at a tangent. If you can bring the palms together and bring them hands down heart center. We're going to start our walking meditation. Inhale, start to bring standing weight to the left leg And as you find that stability, and remember, engage the ball of the foot all the way to the hips. Lift the right foot. You might be just lifting the heel, get that balance, and then bring the heel or the midfoot, ball of foot, and toes down. Shift that center of gravity to the front foot, and once you find that stability, you can lift the left foot and bring that heel, ball of foot, and toes down. And you don't have to lift the heel, the foot up very high, but you know, you can challenge yourself later. And as you breathe, one full breath cycle, inhaling up the foot, exhaling down the foot. It's one step per breath cycle, and we'll meet at the top. Looking down, looking at the fingertips, press into the palms. Inhale, watch them rise. And at the top, we're going to separate our palms. Exhale, engage the core, bend the knees, stick the tailbone back again, and float on down or walk the hands down, whatever works for you. Come on down for a third fold. But this time, we're going to press into wherever our hands have contact, and we're going to lengthen. Inhale, lengthen the legs best that you can, lengthen the back. Maybe it's at a 15-degree, 45-degree, maybe a 90-degree angle at the hips. We're just lengthening here in our first full half lift. And then exhale, just let the back release. Maybe it's just letting the elbows bend, but as you come back to the fold, you can bring your hands down to the mat, down to these blocks, down to the shins if you need, and we bend our knees. We start to walk our hands down to either side of the feet, and we walk a foot, another foot back all the way so that we can inhale the shoulders over the wrists for our high plank. And here we're going to just release the shins and then the tops of the feet if you can. Make sure you don't have the weight bearing on the kneecaps, but more on the tops of the ankles and the shins. And then notice where your shoulders are. If you need, you can always lift up, tuck the toes, lift up the knees and shift back. But we want to have the shoulders somewhat above the wrists. Fingers are splayed, index, middle fingers up towards the top of the mat. And see if you can notice by simply twisting or swerving the wrists slightly to see where your elbows are. You want to have the elbows pointed towards the back of the mat. And engage your core. You should have the core slightly engaged, the belly button sticking to the spine. And then with the next inhale, let's go and tuck the toes. Lift up the hips, inhaling fully here. We're going to exhale, press into those long arms and start to shift the hip, the center, back to your down dog. Now your heels do not need to be on the mat, but we're working towards eventually having an upside down V shape. So you might be high on the balls of the feet, and you can always inhale, press into the hips into the air and roll to the tips of the toes or the balls of the feet, and then exhale, slowly lower the heels downward. Just see where you land. You may be all the way flat-footed onto the mat. You might have lifted heels. And it's just your process, your practice. Now the next thing to think about are the ears, the head somewhat in between the inner arms. And with that, we usually stay in our down dog for about 5 breath cycles. So if you've got another breath cycle or 2 here, just think about lifting up high at the tailbone while the arms are shifting down towards the hands and the legs are shifting downward towards the feet. And eventually your upside down U might look more like a V. And then with the next inhale, let's go ahead and roll our eyes towards the hands. Bend the knees deeply if you need to. We're going to exhale here, engage the core, and walk the hands to the back of the mat. To your fold, bring that weight, shift it towards the seat. And as you come back to your fold here, we're going to inhale for a half lift. Lengthen through the legs, lengthen through the back, best that you can, and then fold. Just relax the back. And here, we're going to come up with a slow roll-up or a straight back, but either way, we engage the core, pressing into the feet, the thighs are firm, and then we come on up, inhaling. And at the top, reach up, press into those nice long legs, and exhale, hands down, heart center. We'll come for our next walking meditation. Bring standing weight to the left leg. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale it down. Bring standing weight to that right leg before you lift the left one. And then exhale that down. And again, one full step per breath cycle. And if you fall out, that's okay. Come back in. Sometimes pressing into the palms, sometimes re-engaging your core if you noticed you lost it. Might be the thing to keep you from wobbling out. But that's okay if you do. At the top of the mat, let's go ahead and look at the fingertips pressing into the palms. Inhale, watch them rise. At the top, we separate the palms, engage the core, stick the tailbone back, and hinge at the hips. Once more, we fold. Fully exhaled at the bottom of the fold. Let's inhale, half lift, lengthen through the legs and through the back. Look down. Exhale, fold. Bring the hands side to side of the feet. Start to walk the feet back to the back of the mat, to your high plank. And this time we're going to be a nice, tall, high plank. So we're inhaling, shoulders over the wrists. A nice, long hypotenuse, diagonal from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. And then you can think of energy of just pressing into those arms, from the shoulders down to the hands, from the balls of the feet, the heels to the balls of the feet. And as you're engaging that core, we're here for about 3 breath cycles. Inhaling and exhaling. And then we can inhale, lift the hips, press into those arms, and bring your body into down dog. Just shifting the weight towards the back of the mat. Removing any bundled blankets. And here, staying about 3 breath cycles, do what feels good to stretch out your dog. You might have bent knees and then lengthening those knees, and then maybe just bending at the ankles, seeing if you can lower through the heels. If you have a loose belly, make sure you engage your core throughout. And then you can notice if you've worked on the legs, maybe it's the back. Maybe you can think about the tailbone all the way down, along back to the wrists, to the hands. Then with the next inhale, roll your eyes towards the hands. Deeply inhaled here. Exhale, engage the core, bend the knees, and walk the hands to the back of the mat. And then fully exhaled here. We'll do the same. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Fully exhaled here. Feel all the parts of your soles of the feet. And then inhale, come on up. Slow roll up, straight back. But as we come all the way to the top, we're going to reach up. Exhaling hands down, heart center, and finally down to the side. And just give yourself a breath or two. Blood is rushing back to the head. Hopefully you feel a little warmer. We've got a little more lubrication of some major joints here. And this is always a good time for a little bit of water. As the weather is warming up, we want to keep us hydrated. Having our electrolytes, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar to keep our water in balance. And then our whole body gets balanced, our fascia, our focus, everything. Okay, so coming on back, we're moving into our balance pose, and have the chair nearby you if you need. I'm going to scoot that over just in case. When you start looking up and you're standing, and if you notice that you get a little dizzy, just having that chair nearby would be good. So we're going to have our 1 square foot mountain. So looking down at the mountain, go ahead and reset that once more. Notice if you can make it a little longer, a little taller. You'll notice that if you come to practice with a pelvic anterior tilt, like many of us who sit, we're working on tucking the tailbone under, lengthening through the legs, engaging those glutes so we can stabilize the inner and the outer muscles of our legs. And as we do that, we should find ourselves getting a little taller. So as we do that, the chest as well. If we're always bent over the computer, we're really trying to roll those shoulders back and down, getting the alignment of the ankles under the knees, under the hips, under the shoulders eventually. So one of those things is just by resetting our mountain at this point, we might find a little longer base, a little more foundation. So as we're there, Make sure we're not rolling out at the feet, rolling in, rolling forward or back. Just a nice balance, best that you can. Right underneath the legs, and then lengthening through those legs. We're not hyperextending the knees, but we're just stacking them so we could be here all day. Next thing we can do is just start to shift the arms, swing it a little bit, and all we're going to do are those opposite shoulder holds again. So start by just bringing hands up, and then let them come down, opposite hold. Do that a couple of times, just in case you missed the first one. And then we're going to bring the arms all the way up, lifting all the way up, lift the chest, press into the legs, lifting high, and then exhale. Let your elbows find, your hands find your elbows. Notice which hand is on, well, it's the same. We're going to switch the order. So inhaling up, same hand, but just now the arm is in back instead of the front. One more, inhale up, and then switch. Inhale up, exhale, switch. And then we're just going to let our arms open up, and then slowly, palms down now, halfway down, let them float down. And we're going to allow them to cross forward, and then we're going to cross opposite hands again. And then we're going to shift them back and front, and back once more, and front. And then at the back, we'll see if we can catch our hands. If you have tight shoulders, start with just catching your hand or bringing the hand at the tush, at the base, at the sacrum. If you can do that, then you can start playing with moving the hand up the back of the, up the forearm while they're in behind your back. So the place we're trying to get to eventually is maybe the elbows. But notice where the top of the shoulders are. If you're really inverted upwards, inhale, try about rotating them back and down. See if that helps. It might be that you're just needing to stay at the wrist, at the forearm, instead of the elbow. But wherever your practice is, we'll go ahead and let go. And then we're going to come back and grab a hold of the opposite sides, if you remembered. And don't worry, we'll do this 2 more times. This time we're trying to inhale, lift up through the chest. See if you can relax those shoulders as you inhale. And then exhale, see if they'll relax a little more. See if the arms, whether they're holding wrists, hands, or just hanging out, can be just a little heavier on that exhale. And then we'll go ahead and just release. Let them kind of dangle. And then at the top of the shoulders, just bring them forward and then retract them back, forward and back. And then you can shake those elbows out just slightly. Alrighty, and then here is where our vision is going to be off of our center, so be near something if you know you have a balance issue. But as we come into our mountain again, we're going to inhale, arms up, let the left arm just come on down, and the right arm bends at the elbow. I'm going to turn around and see where that lands. Some of us might just be somewhere here. That's okay. If your elbow is way out here, we're really trying to bring that elbow closer to the head. And imagine where you can bend the elbow. And then, work from there. The left arm is nice and relaxed. Right arm is here. And then if you're able to, just reach down and see if you can get a hold of the back of the opposite side of the neck. Just see if those fingers can just gently hold. Now the elbow, don't let it flare out, wing out. See if you can just bring it in. And we're going to inhale. Lift up at the sternum. Exhale. Just come back to center and relax. Engage the core. Going to turn around once more. Inhale once more. And as you're exhaling back to center, goes the torso. We're just going to turn the gaze slightly. And because your hands are gently holding on to the back of the neck, you should have a nice little massage. Inhale back to center the face gaze. Lift up at the chest. And then as you exhale, once more, turn towards that elbow and let the elbow slowly float downward. And just let the weight of the hand drag across the back of the neck, down the other side. And then if you can, down the neck. And if you can hold onto that shoulder for just a moment. If that's not possible, then just let it slide on off. And then release the arm to your side. Great, we'll do that to the other arm. So inhaling both arms up once more. And then we let the right arm just slowly float downward. And then inhale up, exhale, let that left elbow bend. See where it is. Give yourself a few breaths. See if it's winging out, if you can bring it in closer to the head. Inhaling should find a lifting at the sternum. And exhaling should just be a return to center. And then the fingers, you also want to have them touching the neck if you can. Just a gentle grip. One more inhale, lifting up at the sternum. And then exhale, turn the gaze. See if you can just gently get a massage. You're just turning the gaze at this point. Inhale, bring the gaze back up to center, lift up at the sternum. And then exhale, turn the gaze once more and let the elbow slowly lower as you're dragging the hand across the back of the neck on this side. And as you go to the side, same side of the neck, bringing the hands down. If you can go to the shoulder and just let it rest there, the weight of your arm. But if that's not possible, then just let it drag all the way down your chest and then let it float. Eventually, both arms can come down to the side. And then we'll inhale both arms up. And then this time we're going to interlace the fingers if you can, bend at the elbows, and just bring the head to cradle. If you can bring the head if you can bring the thumbs at the base of the skull and bring more of the head to be supported, you're lifting up at the chest, you're lifting the elbows upwards. Hopefully you're feeling a nice stretch at the triceps here. And if you can't interlace the fingers, then you're just holding onto maybe the fingers, maybe the back of the head, wherever you can, but lifting up here, and then exhale, just turn the gaze, but bring your neck into center alignment, that's all. The gaze just looks downward, but the neck does not bend forward. So as you're there, just get that nice lengthening. Breathe into the back of the neck. And then we're going to inhale back up, all the way up, looking up if you can, and then exhale, palms downward if you need. And then just let it float back. And then let the arms release. A gentle tuck of the chin to find that length there, and then bring the gaze to the midline. All right. Now as we're moving into, oh good, okay. So now we're gonna come on down to the mat. If you need, our next few poses will be staff, and then a gentle fold. So if you need to stay in the chair, you can. You want to make sure that if you're in the chair, you're sitting at the edge of the chair, either at the side, so you can bring an arm around the back of the chair, or at the front if that's okay for you. But you want to have your sit bones right here at the edge, just depending on where you are. And then I will, actually let me demonstrate here sideways. But if you're on the floor, you're coming into your staff position. And if you're somewhere in between, remember you can always sit on a block, maybe 2 blocks, right underneath your sits bones to help give you a little lift, because sometimes our hips are just really tight and we may not have that mobility, that flexibility to sit with an angle, a 90-degree angle at the hips. So in our staff position at the chair, we're just lengthening through the legs. You can tent the knees. If it's really tight in the hips, it's probably tight in the knees, probably in the ankles, and just give yourself some moments to relax. Whether you're on the mat or not, you can point the toes, and you can flex the ankles, flex the feet, point the toes, and then you get hopefully a little more release. You can tap out the knees. You can inhale, lengthen through the back of the legs so that your heels feel like they're lengthening, and then relax the legs. Either way, we're just trying to get to that point where you can sit upright and have a 90-degree angle to the hips, and your legs are on the floor. The back of the thighs hopefully are touching the floor. So here, we're going to inhale nice and tall, gentle tuck of the chin, and start to walk the hands, hinging at the hips, not at the back, not at the waist, but at the hips. So you're leading with your chest even if you need to. And if you're in the chair, make sure you don't slide off. But we're just going to bend our knees if we need to use a braking motion while we're in the chair. But if you're on the floor, we're just walking the hands, not touching the knees, and folding, hinging at the hips to our best ability. And then we stop. We stop where we are able to. Some of us might be fully folded like a clam. Some of us might be still really up here with that intention. That's fine. You're doing what you need to do. And then at that point where you found your edge, then you're going to take 5 good deep breath cycles and release. See if your neck can release. Just gently soften the gaze. Your upper shoulders might slowly, gently curl. If you have a block, you might just rest your chest on it. If you have a blanket, if you have blocks under your belly because you're folded so flat, whatever you're doing, you're getting to your edge and then breathing the 5 deep ocean yogic breaths. See if you can hear the ocean at the back of the throat. With each inhale, see if your collarbones can lift. See if the rib cage can expand sideways, even in that folded position. And much of the time, once you get into a position that might be, just a little tighter than you're used to, it's just a matter of breathing, just sitting in that slight discomfort. And you notice that it may be something that you just need to stretch out for a bit. You may find parts of the body just slowly releasing on its own, things you did not know you were holding on to. And breathing all the way, a deep breath in, that pause before the deep breath out, and that pause. All right, as we're ready to come out, we're going to inhale, slowly walk the hands up. We're lengthening through the spine, making the torso nice and stable, and then walking it right back up to that 90-degree point of our staff. And then give yourself just any movement that helps you to release. I'm going to come on down to the floor. And as we move into our next iteration of this staff position, we're going to grow this into a gentle seated twist. So sitting up nice and tall. Let's inhale upwards. Feel that lift at the chest, gentle tuck of the chin, that string at the crown of the head. And as you're lifting upwards, we're just going to exhale, turn until we stop turning. And we're just using the torso as one movement, as one unit. We're not turning the gaze and then the shoulder and then the rest. We just want to twist at the waist until we stop. And then notice what happened to your legs. Did your legs flare out? We want to bring the legs back in. We want to keep that gentle engagement of the lower body, our foundation, as we focus with the next 3 to 5 breath cycles on breathing, even in this twisted fashion here. Lifting up, you should feel a lengthening even through the crown of the head, from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head and beyond. And on the exhale, see if you can just release. If it felt really tight, when you exhale, to see if you can release. You don't need to twist any farther. You're just not struggling. If it's too strong, that's usually a sign as the breath changes. Things are a struggle to hold. And in our yoga, especially our gentle yoga, we don't want to do that. After that last exhale, which should be now, let's inhale and bring the torso back to center, and then exhale it to the other side until it stops. And then notice what your legs did. If they just seem to forget to be slightly engage them once more, and breathe. 3 to 5 good deep breath cycles. Sometimes we're unintentionally lifting the shoulders, and on the exhale, you might find them just sliding down the back. The orientation of the palms, maybe their palms down, maybe that right arm has the palm up, so that the right shoulder stays externally rotated away from the chest. And then after your very last exhale, we're going to inhale lifting and exhale turn back to center and fully just relax here. Let the shoulders relax. Let the legs relax. The feet can fall out towards the side. And you're feeling just a slight engagement here at the hips to keep yourself upright. We don't want to lose that activation of the muscles to keep the torso upright and balanced on our pelvic bowl. All right. With the next one here, especially if you have tight hips, we're going to bend our knee and bring one of our legs up close to us so that the heel is as close to our groin as possible. And as I have found out, with really tight hips, you do want to be above. You might need 2 blocks. I wouldn't suggest going higher than 2, but you might just need 2 blocks side to side. If you lift up just slightly, and even in your staff position. And if you don't have to lift up on your hips, don't worry about it. But we're inhaling, we'll just start with the left leg, and you can just slightly draw the knee, the heel closer to you, and that's what we're looking for, is that deep flexion right at that hip, making sure that your back doesn't curve. If it does, it means that it's too much pressure on your hips, and you can just either go back with less intensity, or you might adjust in some other way. And for me, I feel like I need to get up a little higher. Now, as it takes about 3 to 5 breath cycles to find your sweet spot, I encourage you to do that. And once you're there, you're going to give yourself another 5 good, deep, intentional, focused yogic breaths. And on the inhale, you can think about energy entering the body. You can see if that energy reaches any achiness that you noticed. And maybe on the exhale, you can release that. And again, as we're here, we're trying to keep the torso upright. We're not hopefully caving in at the shoulders, keeping the knee near the body, not winging out, hopefully. So if you're winging out, it's just too strong, and you either need to elevate the hips or bring the foot farther away from the groin, but eventually bringing our knee to bend and having that deep flexion on that left hip. You can slightly activate the left leg so that it doesn't roll out completely to the right, but it doesn't need to be aggressively held there. All right, after your last breath, exhale, we'll go ahead and extend the left leg. You can lean back if you need, lengthen through there, and you can gently tap it. You can gently internally and externally rotate the entire leg at the hip, and that might make your foot look like it's waving. And then we'll move to the other side. Inhaling, bending the right knee, and just taking the next 3 to 5 breath cycles to see where your edge is. Maintaining that general knee and toe orientation towards the ceiling, right off from the hips position. And breathing, keeping that length, the abdomen, the upper body engaged, enough to keep it balanced. And then breathing 5 good deep breath cycles from that spot. Notice if your toes are pressing needlessly downward. See if you can relax them. See where that pressure is at the sole of the foot. If you can find an even balance of the weight. And what you can also do is feel along your shin muscle there. You have your shin bone right to the side of that, to the right side of your right shin, of your right leg. You should have that nice meaty part. You can always give yourself a gentle massage down there. But usually when there's tight ankles, you're going to feel a tightness right here, right below your knee. If you've done a lot of hip flexion, a lot of stepping, a lot of hiking, oh, that'll be on fire. So it's nice to identify that here and just gently give it some gentle taps, pressings. And after your last 5th breath cycle exhale, we can slowly come out. Curve the back if you need. Start to walk out that foot and lengthen the right leg. Give yourself some movement to counter stretch from that. You might gently flex and point the feet. You might gently internally, externally rotate at the hip, the entire leg. You might tap out the knees. Sometimes just wiggling your fingers and your toes in that same manner can release a lot of activation as well. All right, and then we're going to come on down to our bridge position. So however you want to do that, we'll find ourselves in bridge and hopefully get a spinal twist in before we move into Shavasana. So knowing that we're near Shavasana as well, if you have blocks or a cushion or a pillow or something that helps you get your props nearby, and you can place them strategically when we go into Shavasana. But as we're moving into our base bridge position, you can come on down one elbow at a time. You can come down from, get into it from a fetal position. But eventually what we're doing is bending the knees, bringing the feet somewhat below our hips. You can reach down, maybe brush the fingertips against them. They shouldn't be too far away, but they don't need to be touching the backside. We want the knees pointed towards the ceiling, somewhat hips distance apart, and the arms extended, palm side down. Maybe the hands are about a foot away from the hips. And just give yourself a moment here. If you have any pinched skin at the back, if you have any noticeable uncomfortable feelings from a bony sacrum, whatever you need to do. And then as we are laying in our base bridge position, hopefully nice and relaxed, we're going to start to inhale and press, see if you can press the lower back space away. That's just gently bringing the back onto the floor. So you might be engaging the glutes so that you can fill out that space below the lumbar, the lower back area. You just want to feel your entire back on the mat, and you might have the tailbone lifted here. Glutes are engaged, quads are slightly engaged. Notice how the feet are. Are you lifting up at the toes? Are you inner or outer arch moving? We want a stable, evenly balanced foot with the glutes engaged and the thighs engaged. And then with an exhale, slowly peel the tailbone down. Just let the glutes relax and let the tailbone find its way back. And the entire sacrum should feel flat on the floor now. And you might have a slight raising of that lower back area again, a small space there. We're going to inhale, start to rock on the pelvic bowl so that you can flatten out the lower back onto the floor and lift the tailbone just slightly. You're not lifting the hips, you're engaging the glutes and you feel the tailbone lift, but you should still have your back on the floor. All right, and then exhale, slowly let those glutes and the tailbone and the back of the sacrum flatten out on the back. Get a little bit of space at the lower lumbar area, the lower area, and you should have a nice downward feeling of that pelvic bowl, like you're trying to press your tailbone downwards. And that'll lift up maybe the rib cage a little bit. You'll get more space at the lower back. And then exhale, start to bring the back down, engage the glutes, roll the pelvic bowl back so that the tailbone slightly lifts. And now at this point, engage the glutes a little more and engage the quads and engage the feet. See if you can lift up the tailbone now all the way so that the sacrum is lifted. You don't have to lift the hips high, but just get the sacrum off of the floor now. So maybe the mid-back or maybe the lower shoulders are really that point of support, as well as you engaging the glutes, the quads and the hamstrings. They should be in the same activation level. But now you're pressing into your feet. So now as you have more stability And you have more engagement of the body to lift the hips, the entire pelvic bowl off of the floor. And the upper mid-back is that point of contact. And the arms, the palms are down. If you need more support, use your arms all the way to the fingertips to help the shoulders support the weight of the hips. And with the next exhale, we're going to slowly, one vertebra at a time, lower at that point at the back, one vertebra at a time until the sacrum comes down, and then the tailbone and the glutes release, and your hips are all the way back down and nice and relaxed. We're going to give ourselves a gentle inhale and let our knees just roll to one side. Windshield wipe. Keep the feet at the same place. We're just rolling to the edge of the feet so we can let the knees windshield wipe to the right. And savor this. Let them stay where they are, and you may find them eventually just moving more over towards the right, and you'll get a nice deep stretch of the left hip stuff. You'll have things hopefully from the left lower rib to the abdomen, to that inner pelvic bowl area, down the left quad, the left thigh, stretching. And you may eventually just find the right leg is resting on that floor or just hovering above the air. But more and more of your very modified bridge twist, I guess this is, as we just let our body savor that deep windshield wipe to the right. Take another inhale, another exhale, and then we're going to slowly inhale. You can use your hands to help guide the knees up. You want to focus on your pelvic bowl just rolling back onto the mat, center. We want that there, and then the knees should just follow suit and come back up. Give yourself a resetting of your base bridge if you just really became skewed there. Your knees should be pointed towards the ceiling. Your hips and your heels should be just, near to each other. And then go ahead and make sure you don't have any pinch skin. Once more, arms are out to the side, about a foot away from the hips, palms down. And we're going to inhale slowly, and then exhale more so to let the knees drop to the left side. You'll start with the inhale, and probably by the time the knees get to the leftmost side, you'll be exhaling. And then give yourself some time here as well. We're breathing probably 3-5 breath cycles just to find that deep stretch, release on the right side now. That might take some time. You might find that you're rolling to the side of the feet. Feet are pretty much in the same position. You're just rolling to that outer left edge. And the knees are just slowly working their way over to the other side, and more of your hips might go to the left side. Maybe your right shoulder might peel up slightly, but if you can keep it there, do so. Eventually, you may even have that top knee, the right knee, resting on the left shin, the left leg's shin. It just depends. And just save that. Breathing your 3 to 5 more breath cycles after you've found that edge. You're hopefully finding energy entering the body, really inflating the rib cage. And then on that exhale, maybe you just might find everything from the right rib through that right abdominal muscle system there, the inner right pelvic bowl area, and the right thigh. Just releasing, maybe even the right ankle. And as you come to your last breath, we're going to slowly inhale. Use your hands to assist if you need. Your hands can help to bring the thighs back up, but you're really inhaling and rolling, engaging the core and rolling the sacrum, the lower back down, flat on the mat. And the knees should follow eventually. Go ahead and realign the hips, heels near to each other, not touching but enough to brush the fingers against. Knees are pointed towards the ceiling, hips distance apart are the feet. And then go ahead and roll to the balls of your feet and let the heels just slightly pivot outward. We're going to let the knees knock inward and see if they can touch. If you have to readjust the feet, do so, but hopefully you've got toes towards each other a little more while the heels are out. And you're able to then just let the knees fall inward. You may eventually touch. You're just releasing, hopefully, here. Your arms, you can go ahead and bend at the elbows. Bring the hands to touch your shoulders. See if you can bring the elbows out to the side, almost to the T, and then release the back of the hands. See where they fall. Now, if your shoulders are really, lifted up, maybe that's a little too high. Lower the elbows. You can bring out the hands so that they're more of a long T instead of a bent cactus hand. But you can always stretch at the top here while we're in this counter stretch. Let me check on the time. Oh, we're almost done here. This is such a nice stretch. So let's come on out. To do so, we're going to bring the hands down to our sides, palms down. We're going to inhale, bring the heels in. Heel and toes are aligned, and the knee should pop right up then. And then we're going to exhale, slowly release one leg and then the other. Or before you do that, if you know you like something under your knees, bring that under there. We're moving into Shavasana. That's your horizontal resting position. I'm going to sit up just so I can mind the time. But as you lay down and lengthen through the legs, through the arms, palms can be either down or palms can be up. Just depends on how that feels on your shoulders. But if you're a little chilly too, get your blanket and try to stay a little warm, because in our cool down, we're really going to be, not very warm. But you can think about softening the gaze, softening the belly. Release the tongue from the roof of the mouth if it happens to be there. Just let it be cradled in the lower jaw. Do any, residual movements to release. And then when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. Bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice the air as it enters the nose, the temperature of the air as it exits the nose. And as you reconnect to your body vessel, I invite you to make movements in the fingers, toes. You can roll parts of the body. You can come into a fetal position or rock and roll your way back up to an upright position. We'll end class with a short breath exercise. And sitting in a staff position, easy seated position. I'm sitting in a pizza slice position, but whatever feels good to you. We'll go ahead and sit up nice and tall, spine, and give ourselves some hand positions at the heart. We'll be inhaling the hands up, and then exhaling them down, and then gathering them in. So we'll go inhale, hands up, gentle pressure at the palms. Exhale, palms away and down. Gather up energy, if you can imagine. Bring them to your heart, inhaling up. Exhaling down. Engage the core at the bottom of the exhale. Inhale one more time up. One more time down. Exhale, fully engaged. We'll meet hands at heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the noontime gentle yoga at ACC. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Yay. Thank you. Georgina, where are you? Wherever you are. Georgina is one of my first students here at the ACC, and she did that one time during our the first year, and I just thought, oh, that's just such a wonderful way. It's always so nice to just stretch out your shoulders. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you ever forget your own video? I forget your own video.
Forget my own video?
Do you